All right, we just finished breakfast. Tim made French toast and our usual sauteed spinach, which is delicious if you haven't tried it. I wanted to do a life update video because the last year has been something. It's been a little crazy. All right. Hi.
Yes.
Hello. Do you have something to say?
Always.
I have everything to say. Okay, we moved to Colorado in 2016. Thought we were going to stay a year or two, have a lot of fun adventures, and then move back home to South Carolina. But we loved it out here and stayed 5 years, 2016 to 2021. All the while, we were kind of postponing moving back. We were like, I'm sure we will at some point to be closer to family, and I'm sure we'll want to start our own family at some point. He was more certain of that than I was. I wasn't certain that having kids was 100% what I wanted to do, so we were kind of just postponing. But eventually, we set a date. We're like, okay, we have to move back, otherwise we're never going to try this. So last October, end of October, we moved back to South Carolina. That whole summer and spring, we couldn't decide where we were going to move because we had always kind of assumed that we moved to Greenville, which is where most of Tim's family is and where his friends are, and a couple of my friends. It's a great little city. We like it a lot. But then we were like, well, if we're moving home to start a family, we should be by my mom because we felt that she was personally going to be the most helpful and involved. And she lives outside of Charleston, which is like 3.5 hours away. So we went back and forth. Kind of last minute, we decided on Charleston. Kind of pulled an audible. I don't know.
We got jobs.
We got
so
jobs
we
there.
went for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Looking back, well, I don't know. I totally get why we moved back. I get it. Tim especially had to like try it out and at least see. He really missed his community of friends and some of our family. For some reason, I was like, I don't feel like I need to move back. I remember telling a coworker, like, I don't think this is going to go well a few weeks before we moved. And that's okay. It's like...
When it was too late.
It wasn't too late. It's never too late. Lesson.
When all your bags are packed.
Yeah.
It's too late.
But we had a great summer and fall. He's going to knock that over. Doing all the Colorado things that we could dream of. And it was super bittersweet. And when we left, I felt very heartbroken. But, okay, so we moved to Charleston. We took a week to move across country so we could see my grandparents and see my dad, like, in Nebraska and Missouri along the way. Stopped at his parents' house in Greenville, and then got to Charleston. We were living with my mom, who's great. That was not really an issue. Of course, it's nice to have your own space, but we wanted to get a feel for what area we wanted to be in, and we didn't want to act on anything quickly. We wanted to feel it out first. And our schedules never really overlapped that much, so I felt like we had a decent amount of privacy. We both started home health jobs there, and literally the first day driving to orientation, we were late because holy cow, traffic in Charleston. It's so bad. So pretty much within a week or two, we were both like, this kind of sucks. This is very claustrophobic, very crowded, very busy. We lived in Charleston. I went to college there. We both went to PT school there. That's where we met. It was super fun to live there in school where you could walk and bike everywhere, be right next door to your friends, study at the beach. Super fun time in our lives that we loved. But trying to move there as 30-year-olds, trying to start a family.
What was the housing
buy a
too?
house, yeah.
Everything that we could afford was so far away from the things we like about Charleston, so.
Yeah. Basically, we wanted to be close to the beach, but that's a fortune. And yeah, that was a rough couple months. I feel like we both went through a phase of depression there. I don't do well with traffic and claustrophobic feelings, apparently. So, and just home health is obviously a lot of driving. We were put in different areas. Decided pretty quickly that that was not for us. But we loved seeing my mom more. His brother and sister-in-law, Chris and Jordan, who we're super close with, lived close by, so we got to see them a little bit more. So it was great to be near family for a while. Okay, so fast forward 2 months. So we literally worked for 6 or 7 weeks. Sorry, bye job. Awkward.
We're the worst.
We're the worst. And then we moved to Greenville. And definitely liked it better. It was a better fit for sure. I feel like we both kind of exhaled a little bit. There was a little more space. His family was there. His friends were there. One of my best friends, Megan, is there. And we had a fun time. We were renting for a while. Decided to buy a house, which we'll talk about, but close to downtown, and we got to go on date nights, biking downtown, which was sweet. Our main issue was it still didn't feel right. There's not a lot of free public land, which for us right now we can literally go right across the street and it's free and beautiful and we can run and mountain bike. There you had to pay for Paris Mountain, which isn't really that great anyways. I call it a hill.
Mountain.
Or you drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is beautiful, but it's just, I think
We got spoiled.
we got spoiled. We got real spoiled by living here. And just missed that meditative space of being out in nature so easily, where we can exercise and clear our mind. And again, Greenville was definitely a better fit, but it didn't have that open, free feeling. Okay, all the while we had been trying to get pregnant from August of 2021, or the very end of July. And all my friends and me were like, oh, it'll happen, you're just too stressed right now, it'll happen, you're too stressed, because we were obviously going through a lot of changes, packing up, moving every 2 months. Then we did get pregnant in, must have happened right around Christmas, because found out early January. And that felt really good. We were like, oh, good, this is meant to be.
We had just moved to Greenville too. So
Yeah,
it felt right.
It felt kind of right for a while. We're like, okay, we'll have some family and friend support. Let's start looking at buying a house. And ended up only having that good feeling for about a week, because I did have a miscarriage. Had a lot of bleeding, kind of medically scary. Just lost a lot of blood. It was harder emotionally than I thought it was going to be, because I was only about 6 weeks along. Yeah, I don't know. That was really tough. That was way harder. I'm talking about it really calmly and clearly now, but I had friends or family members who had a miscarriage, and I was always like, oh, that's really sad, that's a bummer. But I was like, oh well. But when you're actually in it, it's it affects your body a ton. It took me a few months to feel like my energy was recovered, and it's just emotionally terrible. You feel like you're starting a new life, and then you have no idea why it didn't work out, but it's very common. So I feel for you if you're going through that. And just, it took us 6 months to even get pregnant the first time, which was surprising. We thought, we have so many friends who get pregnant on accident or literally within the first day of trying. So we had skewed perceptions on that we thought we were going to get pregnant right away. So that was hard. Okay, that all happened. I bled a lot. I ended up having to get a DNC February, very beginning of February, because not everything had worked its way through my body. And we were supposed to go to Panama 2 days later. So I think I got the DNC on a Thursday, and we went to Panama Saturday morning. for a yoga and surf retreat with my favorite yoga teacher, Nicole Wild. I wasn't allowed to swim or surf or anything, but I could do some yoga. My body was kind of recovering a little bit at that point. He had a blast surfing. So much fun.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was really jealous. It's fine. They had some good waves. But it was good for us to get away and find some space. Greenville in the winter is disgusting weather. It's just like 40 and rainy and cold and just not very pleasant. So, and all the trees are dead. It was a little bleak. So we were happy to get some warmth and some water and just some time away to think. I feel like I'm rambling. Okay, the day before we left for Panama, we happened to FaceTime his brother and sister-in-law. She had just gotten back from a trip from Arizona. She's like, oh my gosh, I love the West. They had visited us a couple times in Colorado. Always loved it. And for some reason, we were all just like, do you want to move to Colorado? And I don't know. I don't know how that happened. But we were kind of like, I'll do it if you do it, and I'll do it if you do it. And like, are we doing this? Okay. Any other thoughts on that? That's kind of a blur. I can't remember a ton about that. But we just made sure we were on the same timeline. Like, they wanted to have their kids finish out school, and our renters in this house weren't done till end of May. So we're like, okay, let's just power through until the summer.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
I mean, I do think the miscarriage was like a big turning point, and then just trying to figure out like why we moved back, and then that happened. There was so much pressure on having a kid, and it was like that was the only reason we moved back, and it just, I don't know, it started to not feel as right after that. And then I had always said if we have one family member in Colorado, we would stay. Yeah. And so that kind of made the decision. Yeah.
Yeah, he brought up two good points. We love our family and friends in South Carolina, but basically the reason we moved back was to have more family support if we were going to have a kid. When we weren't sure if that was a possibility, we said, well, we might as well live in Colorado where we're our happiest and healthiest and not put so much pressure on it. So if we have a kid, great, we'll figure it out. If we don't, we have our dogs and we have everything we love here. And we can visit family and friends. That's the other thing. We found that while we love them, it's just as good for us to see them in chunks of time a few times throughout the year. That was just as enjoyable to us as being close to them geographically. So it's like, okay, if we can't have kids, we might as well just live our best lives. And then also the family member thing. We'd always said, we need to get Chris and Jordan out here or my mom out there, and then we would stay forever. So decided to move back. Okay, decided that in Panama. It felt good, it felt right. Went back to Greenville and making the most of that spring. We tried to see friends. We went on those date nights. Spring was really, really pretty in Greenville. All the flowers are lovely. So things were looking up. By the way, we both had home health jobs in Greenville, and it was like a slower pace of life, which was nice. Although work was kind of confusing for me. It was all over the place. All right, then we both applied for jobs in March for here, and they both said, yeah, we'll wait till July, end of July, July 25th to start. And we're like, great. So we then moved again from Greenville to my mom's house, middle of May to middle of June, because we needed to rent the Greenville house and we wanted to spend a few weeks with family and going to his family's beach week before we moved out here. Okay, filled up a trailer. We have moved so many freaking times. So many times. 5 times? In 8 months. It's a lot. We got rid of a lot of stuff, which is good. His brother had a trailer. So then middle of June, we all kind of caravanned out, moved out here, spent 6 weeks enjoying Colorado. We went to Disney World or Land? I can't. World. Disney World with my mom and sisters and their families. And it was fun. Got to live it up this summer. Got to make some changes in our house and get settled in, which is lovely. And it just, as soon as we rolled into town, I was like, ah, yes. It felt good for me. How did it feel for you?
Yeah, it felt good.
It felt good. He's been mountain biking a ton. I've been trail running with this guy. And we're learning how to balance life and work and play and rest a little bit better. Because when we lived here the first time, we were go, go, go all the time. We were either working or out of town. So we're trying to spend more time here. He started his job end of July at the hospital, which is 10 minutes away. He gets to bike a lot of the times. They are going to let him do 4 10-hour shifts starting in the fall, which is way better than 5/8. So that'll be great. It's not quite as flexible and laid back as our old job, but he's enjoying it so far. And then my job didn't work out. My first paycheck was 78 cents. It was literally, I was like laughing and crying at the same time. The orientation rate is super low and I was not getting any hours, and we do get a little chunk taken out, a little extra chunk taken out for taxes each pay period because we owed 1 year and we're like, I never want to do that again. So it was 78 cents and it didn't get better from there. I stayed 3 weeks and then I was like, no. So all the while his boss is like, Molly should apply PRN at the hospital. So I did, and they were super sweet and I got the job very easily, which was lovely. So I start that in a week and a half. And that's life. Chris and Jordan are here. They live 5 minutes away. And I think we're going to go on a little hike this morning with them. And it feels good. But it was crazy. It was a hard year. A lot of emotional uncertainty and just the physical act of moving so many times, applying for jobs, interviews, going through that process 4 times. It's exhausting. So yeah, I'm happy we made it back here. I totally understand the reasoning of why we had to go through this. What do you think? I did a lot of talking.
What?
About anything. Do you agree?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's been crazy, but it's good to be settled and know this is where we want to be. So.
Okay, Cameron's doing all sorts of crazy things, so we're going to say bye. I think that's everything. Those are the details of our lives. It's crazy, but we're happy to be back. And that's it. Bye.